how I went from displaced and unpaid to my highest revenue month ever. So I've recently posted a reel about this, but unfortunately, reels are limited. In my caption of only 220 characters, I really couldn't tell the full story. So I'm coming on live to do just that. I'm Dr. Medea Allen. I'm the energy doctor for burnt out women over 40 who want to feel energized naturally. And I'm sharing my recent experiences that gave me the opportunity to practice detachment, surrender, and deep trust like I never have before. So let's start with some definitions so we're all on the same page. Now, I'm using a source called the Spiritual Laws of Life, and I'm going to give you a quote about what detachment means. So this book, The Spiritual Laws of Life, is by Harold Klemp, and the quote is, detached means we have the attitude of total trust in life to give us what is for our own spiritual benefit. And I'm using another source. This is called the Ecopedia, the Eckankar Lexicon. And I'm going to define the term self-surrender. Since this story is all about detachment and surrender, let's define self-surrender. Self-surrender is a spiritual practice of releasing attachment and trusting the master's love in all things. So the master means the spiritual guide. Now, surrender is one way of practicing detachment, and they both involve trust. So let me take you to my experience this year that involves the themes of survival, creativity, trust, surrender, detachment. Now, it was the end of 2024. I recognized that the last check of 2024 from my job was late. Immediately that brings panic. Oh no, not this again. I've experienced this with this company, unfortunately, several times before, and they've always rectified the situation. So even though it brought panic, because I am a solo parent, head of my household, I need my coins. Even though it brought panic, I trusted that the situation would be rectified. Now, a few days later, before leaving for vacation, I came across a business training to help health practitioners scale their businesses online. So as I was watching the masterclass for this business training, there were a lot of principles that resonate with me, actually from my spiritual pathway, Eckankar. Principles like taking 100% full responsibility, for yourself, for your business. Also, the reality that things will be difficult and challenging, yet rewarding when you give it all you got. And I really resonated with the coach's no-nonsense direct approach, which is all how I commune with spirit. I like a no-nonsense, no fluff, like direct approach. So because there were a lot of resonances for me with my spiritual path, I felt like this was a nudge from my spiritual teacher, who I call the Mahanta. And I rolled in the training and I invested in myself. So I trusted that this was actually the answer to this constant inner calling that I've been getting to integrate all my training and my gifts. Now, no sooner than I enrolled that I started to feel a sense of panic. Like, oh no, what did I just do? Can I even afford this training? I'm literally about to go on vacation in a couple of days. But, even with that fear of, I recognize it from the little self, from the place of lack, I still trusted myself to do what needed to be done. Now, a few days later, I'm on vacation, and the check that I was expecting to receive did not come. Payroll late again. So my payroll was late 2 weeks ago. Now I'm on vacation. Payroll late again. Now, again, as a solo parent, head of my household, being on vacation and expecting a check to come, again, it just brings this panic, like this sinking feeling. I'm all in a foreign country and I don't have the coins I was expecting. Here we go again. But I trusted. I trusted that, again, the company will rectify the situation. And I just decided, you know what? I'm on vacation, celebrating my son's 16th birthday. I'm just going to be in the moment. I'm going to be present and trust life to bring all that I need while I'm here. Okay? I wouldn't have had the nudge to come here if I wasn't supported to be there. So again, the theme of trust. Now, you guessed it, 2 weeks later, payroll is late again. Now bills are piling up. And then the next day, as I'm actually sitting, trying to do accounting, trying to figure out how am I going to get these bills paid, in comes a flood, literally a flood in my home. There was a water main break in the neighborhood, and the path of the water only flowed through my property, quickly filling my basement with 6 to 7 inches of water. So, of course, it mobilized me into action, a state of panic, fear, like, oh my God, let me get all of my stuff off the floor so that I don't have too much damage to property. And as I'm in the middle of literally in panic, like me and my son getting stuff off the floor, I had this thought like, oh, perhaps this is how I'm going to get these bills paid. So backstory, I had a flood 4 years ago. Same situation in this neighborhood. A house had a water main break. The water flows into my property, flooding it. And the water company assumed responsibility. So they paid me and I was able to repair all the damages and pay for lost property, this and that. Situation rectified, taken care of. But that was then. And this situation was very different. This time was worse. The water company did not respond quickly at all, and my home was deemed unlivable by the fire department. So we were displaced. Me, my son, my dog, for 2.5 weeks from the home. The damage was that severe. So during this 2.5 weeks, it was a period of great discomfort. I mean, I felt like I was in a pressure cooker. That's what it felt like. Pressure from my outside world, pressure from my inside world. So many things, help me to feel uncomfortable. Number one, not being in the comfort of my own home. It's a place where I recharge. It's my haven. It's my little slice of heaven. That was taken away from me. So I was in hotels, and at every dining hall, they had the news blasting. So this is back in January, and the political situation was not pretty at all. So constantly CNN rehashing all this foolishness from what's happening in the government. And I could literally feel the vibration of fear flowing through the space. I don't even watch news when I'm home. So for that very reason, I don't watch it, because I'm very sensitive to that feeling, that vibration that flows through the news. Now, we were being moved from room to room, hotel to hotel. The people who were responsible for getting us back into the home and making it livable again, great miscommunication between parties, all parties involved. So one moment they said the home was ready and we were needing to leave, but that wasn't true. I couldn't move. So it was this constant miscommunication, this constant uncertainty. When in the world are we going to move back? It was just stressful, to say the least, to have where you are going to lay at night, not solid and secure. Now, another place of tension and pressure for me was work. I wasn't being paid, and I was also showing up, trusting, right, that the situation be rectified. So I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I'm a doctor of Oriental medicine. This is vibrational medicine. When I'm treating patients, I am tapping into their body, mind, spirit. So patients coming into me, most of them were federal workers. So they were in a state of fear, panic, shock, losing their jobs, not sure about the security of their future, right? People having mental breakdowns. And of course, right, this is why you come to acupuncture. But just being constantly, in the presence of people in this very extreme mental state, of course, that rubbed off on me, right? So it was another place of extreme stress. And I had to navigate my own very stressful situation. Now, mind you, I had signed up for this business accelerator program right before going on vacation. And, I am in the process of learning what it is I need to learn so that I could launch my new coaching program. So as I'm, in the hotel, not sure about my home, not getting paid, I'm also going full speed ahead, light speed ahead at learning how to market and learning this whole framework of how to launch a coaching program. So I love learning. However, it is very stressful. So I needed this thing to work, right? I needed for this new expansion of my business to work because things were going south at the job. So I also felt extremely uncomfortable, with what I was being called to do in terms of marketing, putting myself more out there on social media. However, I know, right, that extreme discomfort is what activates my creativity. Masters, we create from disaster, hardship, contrast. So another area of great discomfort is, of course, just being a mom, a homeschooling mom. And I'm, making sure my son gets to all his programs and making sure he gets his work done and not wanting to have all this crazy, situation disrupt the flow of his education. So I'm always just very hyper aware of making sure my son has a good flow, a good environment, right? I really felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. And this theme of survival, right? Not having the paycheck and not being in my home. This theme of survival has come up for me lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Very uncomfortable. It just feels like a rug is being pulled up from under me. I don't have my safety net. I feel like I'm constantly just jumping off a cliff, just not feeling safe and secure. Now, what I know for sure, because I've been through enough hardship in these years, is that my real safety net, even though I felt like I didn't have a safety net, my real safety net is the Holy Spirit, which I call the ECK, E-C-K, Holy Spirit. This is where the trust in something that's bigger than me comes in. Through it all, I kept up with my monthly spiritual discourse studies. As a student of Eckankar, I study a discourse every month, and it focuses on spiritual principles and has spiritual exercises. So I went in 1,000% with practicing my spiritual exercises of ECK. I created my own spiritual exercises. I even had all of my ECK books in the hotel room just piled up around me to create this, fortress of safety for me, right? And I think that was the safety net that kept me afloat, is relying on the force that always guides and protects me no matter what is going on in the physical plane. Another thing is I paid attention to my dreams, and this is another way that the Holy Spirit communicates with me, is through dreams. So I had two important dreams. One dream, very fascinating. I was at the practice where I worked, a medical practice, and I was treating a patient. So in the dream, I walked away for a second from the patient. And then when I was returning, couldn't find the patient. Patient was nowhere to be found, and the practice was gone. The clinic was nowhere to be found. So I woke up like, what could that mean? But I just held it loosely and kept it moving. Another very important dream I had, I was in the hotel in the dream, and I was walking down the hall, and I saw my business coach walking down the hall, and he's, amazing, full of knowledge, and he was walking with a couple of people about to go into his hotel room. And I was thinking, oh man, they're so lucky to be staying across the hall from him. He's got all his information and knowledge. And as I was walking, I was just trying to get to my hotel room. And then all of a sudden, my coach turned to me in a dream and says, "Hello, sister." And I just felt like I could melt. Like, oh my God, he acknowledged me and called me sister. I almost felt unworthy of it. So in the dream, I just walked on to my hotel room. Now, when I woke up, that was yet another day that we're being, hauled off to another room because of this constant miscommunication. We had to move out of the room where we were. The room that we were moving into was exactly in the same area in the dream where I was going. It was just a room right across the hall. And what was more important about this dream is the figure of the coach. I recognized that he represented one of my spiritual teachers for me. And to have an experience, whether it's in the dream state, a waking dream, with a spiritual master of Ekankar, it is an amazing experience. They're full of love, full of light and sound, and it is life-changing, right? So as I'm recalling the dream and recognizing who my teacher represented, it just, the love that flowed and washed over me with that recognition. Because for me, that was confirmation that what I was experiencing was guided by the Holy Spirit, and I was protected, and I was going to be okay regardless of what things looked like. So pay attention to your dreams if you don't do that. Now, I also journal. Journaling is a way for me to get direct experience with the Holy Spirit. This is the way the Holy Spirit communicates with me, through journaling. And during this time of great pressure and extreme discomfort, I wrote a journal entry from the hotel room. And what I was getting is that, this was a month of purification, distillation, and clarification of the truth. The truth that is that I am loved and well cared for by the Holy Spirit. What also came through in the journal entry is that there's no growth in comfort. When you're uncomfortable, you move, and home is where the Holy Spirit is. That was a reminder for me, even though I wasn't in my physical home, home is where the Holy Spirit or God is. So this was very comforting for me, as a reminder that we got you, okay? Now, I know that master beings, and I've recognized myself as a master being in training, we create from contrast, meaning that the situations and circumstances will not be easy. It won't be comfortable, full of disappointment and letdown. This is how we are born anew. This is how we create something larger than what we have in our experience. Masters create from contrast. So if this wasn't a contrasting experience in my life, I don't know what was. From the flood to not being paid to, being extremely uncomfortable, launching a new aspect of my business. So it won't be pretty when it's time to create something. Life feels like it has to be upside down, inside out, but these are the conditions in which we are expanding into a higher vibration, right? So I actually likened the water main break to the water breaking in birth. And I saw the flood as a birthing process. I was birthing into a better version of myself. And birthing, guess what? It's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. So we moved back into our home a couple of days before Valentine's Day. And a week later, I resigned from my job. I couldn't keep volunteering. I had bills to pay. So the end of February, I launched my new online coaching program. And in March, I actually generated the highest monthly revenue ever in my 20 years of being in business as a coach. So to date, I've actually earned back 7.5 times what I invested in that business training. Now, unfortunately, I'm still owed money because, Eventually I left and they still couldn't pay me. So I still get to practice detachment and surrender. But I just want to bring this back to the beginning. So in the beginning, I defined for you what detachment and surrender mean according to my spiritual books. So The Spiritual Laws of Life by Harold Klemp. This is the quote that helps to define what detachment means. So detached means that we have the attitude of total trust in life to give us what is for our own spiritual benefit. And self-surrender, this is from the Ecopedia, the Eckankar Lexicon. Self-surrender means the spiritual practice of releasing attachment and trusting the master's love in all things. So master being your spiritual teacher. Now, in spite of this extreme pressure and discomfort of the situation, I did feel the Mahansa's love, my spiritual teacher. I did feel the Mahansa's love throughout it all, even though externally it was buck wild and very uncomfortable. There was a place within me where I could rest because I felt truly loved and protected no matter what. And that's what I made myself available to, because I know I'm loved regardless. Now, as I continue to dedicate myself daily to the Holy Spirit, trusting in the trustworthiness of my spiritual teacher, life continues to be a path of detachment and surrender. We will continue to be tested and strengthened ultimately, because hey, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I'm not here to give up. I'm here to continue to build the muscles to be unstoppable, period. That's my choice. Now, if things are feeling like they're falling apart in your life, or you're falling apart, I just want you to know to be encouraged. We break down to be built back up with a stronger foundation, built on important, sustainable principles like courage, faith, detachment, surrender, trust, and ultimately knowing that you are loved, right? Now, I focus on burnout for women over 40. And what I see and what I've realized in my own experiences with burnout is it's an awakening. We're waking up from the slumber of a life that doesn't support our highest good. An awakening is not comfortable. Think about it. You've been asleep in the dark all night. All of a sudden you're waking up. You open your eyes. The light is bright. Your throat is dry. You have to adjust yourself to this higher and lighter vibration. So, burnout, it's not easy, but it is a wake-up call that it's time for you to truly learn how to care for yourself and protect your energy. Now, what I know for sure, that whatever current breakdown that you're going through, it is your birthing into your next breakthrough. I know this for sure because of what I just shared with you from my story and many other stories that come. Trust me, I've got a lifetime of stories. Your breakdown is birthing your next breakthrough. So if you're a woman over 40 and you're ready to walk through your own fire or your flood and come out glowing, then my coaching program, the Organic Soul Energy Shift, was made for you. I have 3 more spaces for women this month to work with them. And if you're feeling the pull, follow it. Comment glowing below, and I'll personally reach out to you with the next step. I just want to thank you for all joining me live, lending me your ear, and it is my intention that my sharing is a wake-up call for you, and perhaps something resonated with you and can give you some encouragement. If you might be going through something right now, Know that you have the ability to move through to the other side. It takes courage. It takes trust. Trust in the force that is bigger than you, that has your back at all times. We all have access to this, but it's about remembering as we walk through the fire what we have access to. We have access to love at all times, no matter what we walk through in this life. So thank you so much, and until next time, may the blessings be.